Hey, what's up? This is Christopher Stolle of Realm of the Mist Entertainment. The podcast you are listening to is part of the SJ Network. Go to s-j-network.com. That's s-j-network.com for more great podcasts and information on those shows, as well as information and ability to contact publicist Steve Joyner for more information. Just go to the website and check out the family, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, enjoy the show.
Today's guest is J.K. Rowling. She is best known as the author of the Harry Potter series.
Henry, I hate to tell you this. Today's guest is J.B. Ellis, host of the program and Journey of the Jays.
Even better. J.K. Rowling doesn't know squat about NFL draft picks.
Very true. I wonder if she gives point spreads on Quidditch matches.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution. Today's podcast is being brought to you by Audible. You can get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, a podcast from this high altitude might make you think the Sherpa is funny.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels, and welcome to Too Many Podcasts. It's me, Jim, the podcast Sherpa. It's Sports Week, and that's why I'm talking like this. I don't know why. All right, I'm going to start this show off with a question.
Who's our guest today, Sherpa?
You knew that was going to be the question, right? Our guest today is a guy named J.B. Ellis, and we're actually from roughly the same geographic area. Yes, he's from downtown Podcastia. The interview that you're going to listen to is actually a combination of two interviews because JB is the host of two podcasts. He does one by himself called The Program, pro in big capital letters, on the Believe Network. And he also does a podcast called Journey with the Jays. And he does it with two other guys. And they kind of debate and discuss sports. A lot of sports going on in here. And I got to give you a little warning. Well, not really a warning, but deep into the interview, the conversation takes a really weird left turn. And we both just start laughing. And it has absolutely very little to do with sports. But he's such a great sport and a funny guy, too. Really appreciated him coming down. So have a listen to my mixed up interview with the one and only J.B. Ellis. Okay, hey there, rebels. We are here talking sports with my buddy J.B. Ellis, the host of Balancing Sports, or better known as The Program, but now he's got a brand new podcast. It was quick. You weren't gone too long, and both you came up with a new one, and you've got some co-hosts, and this one is called Journey with the Jays. So welcome back, JB.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Keeping busy. Got the new show, Journey with the Jays, having a lot of fun. Met up with two great podcasters and, we clicked and we put together a show to supplement our other shows that we have, kind of just getting more involved in the podcast world and trying to get it on the radio as we go forward.
How did you hook up with these other two guys? I mean, they do sports podcasts as well, obviously.
Yeah. So John, who is one of the other Jays, I met up with through somebody we know on Facebook. And, we worked, he had interviewed me and I interviewed him on my show. And we just had a good relationship. We worked well together. And then the other person, Jason, I had met through a broadcast person that I know. And we started talking and I said he'd be a great addition, another hard worker, smart young guy, knows a lot about sports. And I just think, with the three of us, it's a very different dynamic because we all bring different things to the table. We're from different areas, different age groups, and we kind of see things differently.
So you kind of really provide your own instant debate with the other two guys if necessary.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess it's good to have that little. It's probably got to be. Let me try that again. It's got to be really different to have that kind of new chemistry after doing a show on your own, because now all of a sudden, you're spitting out an opinion and there's somebody right there to catch it and just say, "Wait a minute, JB, what about this?"
No, exactly. It's completely different. I mean, because, my show, the program, is just basically interview based, and it's a conversation kind of like we're having now, wherever it may go. And, it's fun and but it's not really so much debate oriented. I'm just hearing what other people's perspective on what they've done or what they're witnessing if they're a media member, and I'm not really giving any opinion. I'm just kind of facilitating, taking them from point A to point B and having a conversation with them. Where Journey with the Jays is more along the line of show kind of like First Take maybe on ESPN or Crossfire if you're a news fan, where, one of us, we all have our own sport that we handle. And then, we'll talk about topics and we may disagree, we may agree, and you never know where the conversation is going to go.
Why don't you talk a little bit about yourself and how you got started into sports podcasting? Were you always into sports when you were younger?
Yeah, so I played basketball since I was about 5, played football in high school, and played some baseball growing up. I always, athletic, enjoyed it. As I grew older, followed sports, grew up in New York, so always had a lot of great sports teams to follow, the Yankees, the Giants. Used to be a Knicks fan until Brooklyn moved in with the Nets. So always involved in sports.
When you were a kid, did you collect all of the cards and know all the stats on the back of the cards?
I was never a huge stat person, but I used to just enjoy watching and going to games and having favorite players. But I would collect the cards. I wasn't a huge stat person. I used to be amazed by my friends that would be able to rattle off stats. I always felt there was more to it. I like to, get to know the players and hear what they had to say a little bit more than just the numbers.
Which kind of made it a natural progression into podcasting, I guess.
Yeah, I would think so.
Out of some of the athletes that you've interviewed, have you kind of noticed what happened with their careers after you spoke to them? Was it kind of on the trajectory that they were hoping for?
As far as interview-based shows, I've done about half of them have been interview-based. So most of them were NFL draft prospects, since that was the biggest thing that's happened in sports in the last couple of months. I had 2 guys that have signed NFL contracts. I have Sean Riley Jr., who went to Syracuse. He was led the nation in punt return yards his freshman year, kick return yards, and he signed with the Patriots. And Douglas Coleman III, who's a great safety from Texas Tech, he went to Denver. So those 2 went to the pros. The other ones are waiting to be signed. I've spoken to actually a lot of women that play pro sports, a lot of women football players, which is really interesting. I didn't know much about it till I got to speak with them and learn about it, and found out that there's a great league in New York, the WFLA. The team's owned by Ja Rule, the rapper. So I got to speak with one of the stars of their team, and their season got canceled. But, I hope to catch a game next year and see them. Now I've done a couple of college basketball players and, just branching out and more people that are out there and just having fun, enjoying and hearing their story and what they're looking to do in the future. And so far, they've all been interesting people. I found it, pretty fun.
I'm sure when people interview the guys who are at the top of their game, like a Michael Jordan or a Derek Jeter or a Tom Brady, they can kind of sense that there's that special kind of mindset of an athlete that likes to win and knows how to win. Have you kind of sensed that in any of the people that you've interviewed?
I've noticed that in almost every single one of them. I think once you get to that point where you're going to be playing pro ball, you have something in you that just gives you determination. Because to get to that point, it's 1 out of every how many thousand people, it's got to be hundreds of thousands. So you have to have some sort of killer instinct and some sort of survival skill to get you to that point. besides just talent. I always like to say, and I've spoken to people on good teams and bad teams. And when I speak with someone on a bad team and they start telling me their story, we talk about it. I always say, I don't think it's so much that your team wasn't trying, because I'm sure, kids in college are all trying their hardest. There's always people that unfortunately are better than you or better coached. You may be the best guy out of the 22 on a football field, but if the other team has 11 guys that are coached better and maybe you're more prepared, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're just not going to win that day. So wins and losses are just one aspect of sports, and there's so much more to it.
What can you tell us a little bit about John and Jason? I know that they didn't want to be on the show tonight because they hate me.
Well, we actually all had a discussion beforehand, and I got the short end of the stick, and I'm here. Now,
You lost again.
John's unfortunately under the weather, and Jason is at work right now, as you see, scheduling. So John has his show called the Perch Sports Network, which is another sports show, basically dealing mostly with the Baltimore area. They do other sports as well, but it's primarily focused in Baltimore. Jason has his show, The Sideline Rush, which is kind of a interview show. He's from the Carolinas, so, different perspective and different area, has different guests that I have. So, they're both really excellent shows, and both are great young broadcasters. And it's fun when we all get together, we can talk about what we see and what we enjoy.
What do you think is probably going to be the most debated topic between the three of you?
Definitely different teams and things. Being from New York, I'm a huge Yankee fan. John's from Baltimore, so he's definitely a Baltimore fan. He likes the Orioles, which aren't very good. So it's not too bad right now. But a couple of years, they're going to get better. Having went down to cover them in spring training, I see that they're going to be better in a few years. So I can see that getting a little bit more heated as time goes on.
Is he going to have something to hold over your head after a while?
I don't know about that, It's still the Orioles.
That's true. You don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, right?
Exactly. They still got a long way to go.
What are some of the plans that the three of you have? Are you going to do any interviews as well, or mostly just going to kind of keep it among a discussion amongst yourselves?
So we'll have interviews as time goes on. We only right now have 2 episodes that are out. We're just working to get out the kinks because, when you do your first couple episodes, especially when you're working with newer people, there's chemistry and timing and everything. So far, the first 2 episodes have come out really well from what I've seen. So we're just working to make that better. And then from there, the eventual goal is to try and turn it into a radio show somewhere. So if you're listening now and you're a program director, JB Ellis at theprogram.club. I'll see your email really soon. Yeah, but
there you go.
We're working hard. We're reaching out to different stations because it's a different show than probably ever been that's been out there. So I think it has a great potential to turn into something long term.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. I'll let you think about it. Don't worry, there's never any math involved, JP. So that's what I always promise my guests. But let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you for 3 people in the sports world that you would love to interview or would have had the opportunity to interview had they, if they were alive or not alive.
That's not the first time I've heard that question today, but.
Oh, okay. So you got a little practice fit.
But yeah, the first person right now on the top of my mind is Mike Trout, the baseball player. The reason being, in my opinion right now, he's the best player in Major League Baseball. I don't think they market him enough. From everything that I do see about him, he just seems like he's a regular guy. I think just the way I do my interviews, I think we would have a good chemistry and he'd be able to be himself. 2 more people, that's a great question. If they're alive or not, I would say possibly Muhammad Ali. Because just to hear his confidence, but yet I hear how great of a person he was when he wasn't boxing. So I would just love to sit down and talk with him, and especially the fact that it's a sports-centric show. So I could definitely put it where my listeners would enjoy it as well. And the third person, Babe Ruth, because he was the greatest Yankee of all time.
Out of the interviews that you've done so far, did you have any particular standouts that you really enjoyed doing?
I'll be honest with you. After every interview I've done so far, I've followed every person on social media. I root for all of them. I can't think of anything bad to say about anyone I've interviewed so far. I'm sure that's going to happen eventually. It can't always be great. Some are better than others. I mean, some you just hit it off better. Sean Riley was a great interview. I thought one of the best interviews I've had was Fred Sims, who's a European basketball player. His backstory of how he tried to enter the NBA draft and how it didn't work out and how he went to play in Portugal was fascinating. And I think he's going to make the NBA eventually. But I've spoken to some great young athletes, and I could see all of them turning pro eventually. And I would think that if I was running a team, because I try and watch some film on them as well, so I could see what they can do as well from having played sports and, watched a lot of it my whole life. I look at what they've done on the field and speaking with them as a person. I want guys on my team that could lead by example and have a personality of a leadership mentality. And so far, it seems like everybody has kind of shown that.
Out of the athletes that that maybe the world has known, are there any in particular that you feel really kind of fit that mold? That they knew how to be a leader and inspire.
Well, I mean, right now you have the Michael Jordan documentary, and now everyone's seeing the true side of Michael Jordan, and everyone is reacting like, "Wow, he's a horrible person. He's bad mouthing his teammates. He's cursing at them." And I'm looking at it the other way, because he's not going after people that aren't trying to be tough. We're not talking about an office job. He's not a cashier at a supermarket yelling at another cashier. This is a basketball team. They have to go up against the Knicks, who are a really physical, tough team. The bad boy Pistons that, would beat Jordan down every game. So he's trying to toughen his teammates up. He's not doing it in a place where he doesn't like them or care for them. He's just trying to get them to be at the point where they need to be so that they're performing at the optimal level. And people didn't realize that behind the scenes, all this was happening, that he just has this desire to win and be the greatest. And that's just all that's showing.
So just a little tough love, basically.
I think it works in sports where it wouldn't work anywhere else.
That's true, especially in the supermarket. I think that may be a little tricky.
I wouldn't want to see, the cashier on 7 screaming at number 6, I don't think that would work.
You're not ringing up the Lord of Dues in the right way.
No, that would just be ugly. The stock guy, he didn't put the Pepsi up right. This would be bad.
That's right.
But think about the food fight that they could have.
That's true. That could go on for days.
As long as they don't get to the dairy, we're okay.
That's right. Well, I guess if they were lactose intolerant, it probably wouldn't make too much of a difference, though.
Yeah, but the spoiled milk would just smell bad.
Yeah, and they can't cry over spilt milk, because I think there's some sort of rule about that. Well, this conversation took a left turn, didn't it? Welcome to the Sherpa Chalet, by the way. the home of left turns.
You gotta have fun. If you're not having fun, podcasting is not for you.
That's absolutely true.
Because to be honest, from what I've seen, I was lucky enough. I was with Buzzsprout, and anyone that's looking to start a podcast, there are many places you could go out there that are free. I'm not technically savvy. We spoke about everything before we started recording. They have great tech support. Sorry for doing a commercial, but I just love them. I actually apologized to them that I was joining the network that I was canceling before I canceled my membership, because that's how good they were. They sent me to Podfest, which is a podcast convention for free. They sent a whole bunch of their people, and I learned a lot of things. And one of the things I learned is you get a lot of listeners over time, and everyone starts out slow. But the most important thing is to have fun. And there's ways to do this and to grow. And, there's a lot of ways to make money, which was never my goal. I'd love to make money, but who cares? I just enjoy it. I love sports. I've spoken to a lot of great people. And, look, I got to sit here and talk to you and be interviewed and, have fun having a great conversation.
Well, thank you. And the feeling is mutual here. But yes, I agree with you. Especially, if you're putting yourself behind it and you're making the decisions, you have to make it enjoyable. It can't be all about the money, because you'll make yourself crazy.
No, I mean, it's definitely not going to be a main job unless you want it to be, and then you got a lot of work to do because there's I think over 1 million podcasts now. So good luck if you try that.
Which is where I got the title of this show.
Wow.
Why don't we go back a little bit to the sports world for a second?
Okay.
So do you think with the pandemic currently going on as we were recording that, do you think that's kind of restricted your conversations, or, sports is always a good debate anyway between friends?
So there's always something to debate in sports. You could always find something. And we're at the time now where sports is just coming back. We had the first weekend this weekend of Major League Baseball, and that already turned into a horror show with the Marlins testing positive, and now some of the Phillies tested positive. And now we have basketball that's starting tonight. The first game's over, the second game's on. So by the time everybody listens, they'll already know who won the Laker game. Maybe if you could tell me now, but but there's always something to talk about with sports. Nowadays, sports has become such a part of the fabric of the country. Not just as far as the game itself, even off the court. If you look at the sports leagues now getting involved in the Black Lives Matters movement and different social campaigns. So it's more than just being on the field or the court nowadays.
You think it's going to be like a little more corporate involvement with, public sentiment?
I think it should be. I mean, a lot of people are very, hard-headed one way or another. And, like you see a lot of people that say, oh, he kneeled, I'll never watch football again. Or the NBA is putting the Black Lives Matter thing on their jersey. I'm never going to watch basketball again. I think people forget about what makes our country so great is that we all have this right to protest peacefully. And, a lot of soldiers lost their lives so we would have this right. Not so much, that protesting means you don't respect the country. But at the same time, that's actually a greater gift for the person that lost their life is that you're protesting and you're using the right that they fought for, the same way voting every November is.
And I'll throw another controversial subject while we're on this topic. I like your opinion stuff. So now the latest news is with the Washington Redskins and the changing of the team name. That it seems that they're kind of, I don't know, is it bowing to pressure or is it just moving forward and being progressive about it? Is it necessary? Any ideas of what they should call the team?
The thing about the NFL and the Redskins, the NFL does whatever they think is going to make them the most money. They don't ever do anything that is on the side of right or wrong. They're not worried about right or wrong. They're worried about the bottom dollar. Whatever, I guess it's a business. But at the same time, somewhere along the line, you gotta do what's right or wrong. You have to just stand for something you believe in. A couple of years ago, Colin Kaepernick, up till today hasn't gotten a job. And he's better than a lot of quarterbacks out there. But now all of a sudden, they're changing their tune, because of the course of the country and the different debates. So it's just, I don't know. I just have a lot of things where I don't respect where the NFL opinion comes from. I know it's all about making a dollar, which whatever. I guess that's their business structure.
I wonder if that would affect Major League Baseball, where you have the Atlanta Braves and the Cleveland Indians as well. Do you think that it's going to cause a wave of change, or that's just going to be like an isolated decision and nothing else will change? What do you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, there's really no reason to have a name that is discriminatory in any way. I mean, how would we as Caucasian people like if it was called the Washington Crackers? I mean, come on. If the Native American people are offended by it, that should be good enough. It's not really up to me to decide and say it's not offensive. Do I understand it? No, but if they're offended by it, I should be listening and trying to figure out what we could do to make it better.
But you have reminded me that I think I'm going to have to write to the Ritz Corporation because,
but seriously, I mean, it's wild because, I've never seen a team called that. So I can't say that it probably wouldn't bother me, but at the same time, I don't know. So
right.
I can't compare it to what they're feeling. So I wouldn't try to, you know what I mean?
Right. When you don't have that perspective, it's hard to get it in your brain sometimes. Yeah.
And I get that there's a lot of history with the name, but nowadays with free agency and people moving from place to place to different teams, it is what it is. If you enjoy the sport, you enjoy the sport. The name of the team shouldn't matter. You'll still be a fan. If you were a fan of that team, you're going to be a fan if it's called the Washington Senators, the Washington War Eagles, whatever they call themselves, you're going to like that team. You're not going to stop liking it because they changed the name. And if you are, you really have to take a long, hard look at yourself rather than the name.
Right. Then you're just kind of getting into issues as opposed to just being a fan of the team.
I just think it's a pretty stupid argument to worry about names of teams. I like football. It doesn't matter to me what they call the team. I like the Giants. If tomorrow told people were offended by the name Giants and they had to change it to, I don't know, the New York whatever, I'm still going to like the team. That's who I like today. It's not going to change. I'm a huge St. John's guy. They were the Red Storm. They're the Red Storm now. They used to be the St. John's Red Men. They changed their name. I'm still a St. John's fan. I still will go to every game if I can. Yeah, I didn't stop liking the team. I didn't think there was anything wrong when they did it. Yes, I like tradition and I like to keep the name. Sometimes in life, you can't always have what you like.
Are there any special podcasts that you like listening to? They don't have to be sports podcasts. Or is there anything that you use to pass your time?
So I do a lot of driving, and when I take my long drives, I always listen to JJ Redick's podcast. Even if you're not a sports fan, because he's an NBA player, his podcast is really interesting. He doesn't really talk so much about sports. He talks about what he enjoys. And I didn't like JJ Redick till I started listening to his podcast. Now I'm a huge fan of his. Brian Koppelman has a great podcast, the guy who wrote Billions. I really enjoy that. And then, of course, a bunch of different sports podcasts that I'll listen to.
Now, we have a portion of the show that's called Shameless Self-Promotion.
Shameless self-promotion.
And this is the point of the show where you can get to let people know where they can find you or how they can follow you on social media.
Journey with the Jays, still in its infancy. Right now, it's a weekly show where you can hear it everywhere where podcasts are out there, on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, all of those. And, it's Journey with the Jays. And, you could also follow my show, The Program. You could follow John on the Perch Sports Network and Jason at the Sideline Rush. And that's everywhere where podcasts are heard. On Twitter, you could at me at JB_The Program. On Instagram, I am under the _program _on_ Believe, BLEAV, which is the network that I'm on. And the show is The Program, capital PRO, Gram, on the Believe network.
Now, we're recording the show during the coronavirus pandemic, unfortunately. And I know there's not a lot of sports action going on. Do you think I could pick your brain for a couple of predictions once things may get up and going? What teams do you think people should be looking out for?
So in basketball, if they finish the year, I also write for Fansided as well. And one of the articles I wrote is about the Nets. So the longer the NBA season stays on hiatus, if they decide to play, the Nets actually have a really good shot of playing Durant and Irving. And if they do, they could be a threat in the East. Otherwise, I think it comes down to the Lakers and Clippers out west, one of those two to win. Baseball, I think the Yankees have the best team by far if we play baseball. And hockey, that could go many different ways. Hockey's a tough sport to predict and also not my best sport. I would love to have some great hockey guests on, though, because I'd love to learn more about the game. And football, my Giants are not going to do anything for another couple of years. So it's kind of heartbreaking, but at least New England's not going to do well this year. I think this year is going to be the Ravens' year. I think that, Lamar Jackson's going to continue to improve. And if we play football, they're going to be a really great team.
We should warn the listeners that this isn't a betting site or anything like that. These are just your own personal opinions on the sports. So yes. I don't want to have anybody holding you responsible saying, well, JB said we should be doing this. No.
I apologize to all the Yankee fans in advance when we don't win the World Series because I said they're going to do well. I apologize in advance.
So I just figured I'd clear you of any liability before I have to call my lawyer, Dirty Louie, to do his work.
Well, I appreciate it.
Any things that are coming up for the program as well, in addition to the new one?
So right now, with the program, we're going to have Bill Cartwright on in a couple of probably beyond by the time this airs. He'll discuss The Last Dance. Scoop Jackson, who's one of the better NBA reporters and writers, and we'll have him on, and working to get more guests. We have a bunch of different people lined up. Once we do the interviews, we'll see where that goes. Who will be on and when.
It sounds good. All right, so his name is JB Ellis, and the new podcast, Journey with the Jays, or you can check him out on the program. And maybe the next time, those other two guys won't be hiding on us. And we can get them to put in a little feedback, I guess.
Definitely. We'll make sure they come on next time.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, JB.
You're welcome. You have a great night.
You too.
And now it's time for Sherpa Suggestions.
What? Even more Sherpa suggestions, Sherpa? That's right. It doesn't stop here at the Sherpa Chalet. So I figured since Joe and his compatriots cover a lot of sports, I would give you a listing from an article from a website called Discover Pods, and it's the 20 best sports podcasts. I'm not going to list all 20 of them because we've covered a few of them between Wednesday and Thursday. So here are a few other ones if you definitely want to check out some other podcasts that don't necessarily have to do with basketball or are different podcasts. Okay, so let's read them off here. We have Pardon My Take, Around the NFL, The Football History Dude, The Woj Pod, W-O-J, which is hosted by Adrian Wojnarowski, Pod Don't Lie, The Doug Gottlieb Show, Starting Nine, that's a baseball podcast, Baseball and Chill, and one of my favorite titles for hockey, Spittin' Chicklets, and even better, Puck Soup. I love it. So there's a couple of really interesting sports podcasts that you might want to check out. And don't forget to check out both of JB's podcasts. You're really going to enjoy them, just like all the other guests this week who also do sports shows. I've given you a lot. You've got a lot of choices. You don't have to worry about asking Sherpa, hey, what sports podcast can I listen to? I've already done the work. Okay, now take this information and go forward. Well, you might be in a car right now, but go forward. Don't drive in reverse. I'd like to say a special thank you to all my sports podcasters this week. That would be today's guest, JB Ellis, Brian Snow, the Snowman, who we heard yesterday, and of course, Coach Scott Fields. I encourage you to check out all of their podcasts because they're all great guys, very talented men, definitely know their sports. If you want to know about sports, this is not the podcast you want to listen to, but this is the one you want to listen to if you want to get to know the podcasters who know about sports. Aha, you see what I did there? I made myself valid as opposed to being invalid. Let's move on. If you want to follow the show on social media, just use the word Sherpalution on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. And you can see what's going on with the show and some of the people that I've interviewed for upcoming episodes. And if you'd like to offer requests for Sherpa Select, namely the shows that we've played in earlier seasons, and maybe we can just tweak them a little bit and make them sound really pretty for you in Podcastia. If you want to do that, send me an email, jimthepodcastsherpa@gmail.com. Let me know if you've got a favorite. And if you follow me on social media, please, 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 we want to hear what you think. Tell me what you like. Tell me what you don't like. But mostly what you like. And if you're liking it, leave me, please, a nice review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher.com, or iHeartRadio. Spread the word about the Sherpalution. Okay, Mr. Bruce, I think it's time to close down the bleachers and take down the banners. Sports Week has officially come to an end, and if you could show everybody to the door, you can blow that whistle if you want to just keep them in line. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work. Okay, everybody, we will see you next week, and we will be having an interview with a guy named Scott Hopkins, who was the 6th grade teacher of mega publicist Stephen Joyner. He had a lot to say about the early days of education. Fascinating conversation. Nice guy. Check it out. Viva la Sherpalution. See you.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yo, come back now, you hear?